Are women emotional? And is that the downfall of being a woman as opposed to being a man? Are men more logical because they are not as emotional as women? Today I'm going to be discussing this topic, which was brought up in a few of Candace Owens' YouTube videos. Her YouTube channel is called Candace Owens Podcast, and she has lately been sharing her views about women and about how she seems to believe that women are experts at being emotional rather than rational. And it really makes me feel like making a video. Oh my goodness, did I say that word? Feelings. And yes, I am a woman, so let's go ahead and talk about this topic. And I'm actually going to suggest that actually both are emotional beings created by God. And let's go through the actual topic that she was talking about most recently. Her video is entitled Bud Light's VP of Marketing is Out. So for those of you that may not have been following what was going on with Bud Light, the beer, apparently their sales were really going low, and we'll be hearing by their VP of marketing herself at the time how the situation with this company was and what her plan was. She created this huge controversy by bringing in a very well-known person in the media. His name is Dylan Mulvaney, and this person has documented what this person calls a 365-day journey of becoming or being, transitioning into a girl. Not a woman, girl. Obviously, that did not sit well with a lot of conservatives, and maybe not just conservatives, but people that are not about that. They don't want to endorse Bud Light anymore, by being in business deals with that company, or even just by purchasing these beers anymore. They wanted to make it loud and clear that they were boycotting this beer because they don't want to be a part of Bud Light's agenda of pushing forward this person by the name of Dylan Mulvaney. And it's not just him, but it is a lot of different companies who have been using this person to be the face of their products. They actually made an impact with their boycott. This person has been taking a leave of absence recently, and so here we're going to hear Candace discussing the topic. And my goal in this video is just to say that there is a lot more that needs to be considered and talked about, and not just have not so deep response to, for example, this VP of marketing video that we're about to hear Candace comment on. So I'll actually be responding mostly to Candace, but I would like to also respond a little bit to the VP.
And her plans were to radically shake things up because men are bad and being manly is bad. And here's Alyssa explaining what she was going to do at Bud Light as a new hire.
So Candace is already starting the video by having this idea that this VP is of the mindset that men are bad. And this lady, Candace Owens, she comments on the culture, and she is not shy about, being vocal about her support of Trump. She's very vocal also about the transgender movement that's going on in the culture. And to my understanding, she provides a Christian worldview answer to why she opposes that worldview. And mentioning this because you probably already know, or you can guess by my, my introduction, that I'm also a Christian, and I also come from a Christian worldview perspective. I think we disagree when it comes to certain things about how we are to approach certain topics, and this is one of them. And I think that sometimes the political commentators on YouTube, I mean, I'm not even tackling like the larger platforms that have been around for longer. I just want to mention that, from my observations, nobody is perfect, right? Including these conservative commentators. And it is possible for us to have this filter, like, so to speak, these glasses where we are so micro focused on a particular issue of culture, and we see all the problems, all the negatives that a certain worldview, for example, in her case, from what I've heard, she's very anti like feminism. So I could be wrong though, but that's what I'm getting. So the way she comes across, like the glasses that she has, they're always on because these are the things she's always talking about. How, things have impacted, and that's why we're seeing this in today's culture. But because we are all flawed and we all have blind spots, I think that Candace makes the mistake of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so, right from the start, she is showing some feelings there about how she disapproves of this mentality of women, or just men as well, I'm assuming, having this negative view of men.
Take a listen.
I'm a businesswoman. I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light. And it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time. And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. So I had this super clear mandate. It's like, we need to evolve and elevate this incredibly iconic brand.
Okay, so this is where I want to respond to the VP of marketing. She is letting us know that this company was in decline. So she had to come in and essentially save this company. To my understanding, it makes sense. If you already have lost consumers, who is going to continue to drink your product? Of course, you have to attract the young people of our country so that they will continue to drink it as they get older. And young people usually make things trendy, so that was her strategy.
And what I brought to that was a belief in, okay, what does evolve and elevate mean? It means inclusivity.
So she needs to figure out what evolve and elevate mean. She wants to bring this belief, her worldview, into her strategy to help this company succeed, for her to do her job. Evolve and elevate. So she is under the impression that this brand is not evolved and not elevated. And in her mind, what does it mean to evolve and elevate? Here we're going to hear.
It means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and to men.
And so she thinks that inclusivity is what is going to elevate and evolve this brand. So in her mind, inclusivity is like the great thing that brands should aspire to. Apparently, she feels that the brand was only targeting men, and so she wants women to come and to try this product and to identify with it.
And representation is at sort of the heart of evolution. You've got to see people who reflect you in the work. And we had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of fratty, kind of out of touch humor. And it was really important that we had another approach.
Spoken like only a woman could. So many.
Okay. Before we get to Candace, which is the real reason I'm making this video. So the VP of marketing is saying that you need to have representation, and if you're going to get more young people and more women to be interested in your product, you need to have representation. So why didn't she just choose to have young people to, you just do these non-bratty guys and girls, right? Not literally girls, but age to drink, right? Why not just do that if that's what you're trying to attract, the youth? But what I think she's really getting at is, I think she has the view that today's youth is all about inclusivity. Well, first of all, the idea that the young people are the ones that drink the most and that will save her company, right? Bud Light. Not sure what the stats are on that, but it seems because of the boycott that it seems that the older people are actually the ones that are the consumers. It seems that she was very intentional about not just getting your average young adult guy, lady. She wanted to have a representation of the LGBTQ community. And here, I think I want to end my commentary on the VP here so that I can transition to just talking about the real reason I'm making this video. Like I said, what should have been investigated would have been the stats of who are the actual consumers. If we go with this worldview that she brought to the table, would we put off even more of the consumers that were still hanging around drinking this beer? And I think that was a huge miscalculation. And that can easily happen because we are mostly in our social media circles that we only listen to people that say the same things that we believe. So you like something on social media, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok will show you 10 more things that are saying pretty much the same thing. And so we get really insulated. And I think this lady, unfortunately, she did not realize how much of an impact this risk of hers was going to have in the company. And instead, she was going to make the problem even worse. My take on this is that American brands, in particular, if you're targeting Americans, right? You want Americans to buy your product. You need to market in a way that you are aware that actually there is a huge amount of people that are okay with buying your products that do not want LGBTQ representation, in particular when it has to do with women products. It just seems so naive for people to think that men were going to be fine with that and that women wouldn't be offended by that as well. And I say that women are offended because there is a lot going on with women's sports and them losing a lot of the first place awards, lack of privacy in their locker rooms, lack of privacy in just your big stores in your local neighborhood. It's not so black and white as it used to be, like men's restroom, only men here, only women enter here. The actual climate in our country, if you're going to ignore the vast amount of people that have a problem with this and are not going to just be okay and embrace this whole different worldview than the one they have, which is largely based on Christian views and teachings of what God commands on this topic and teaches about men and women, about sex. it's impossible, I would say, for you to convince all of these people to just embrace diversity, quote unquote, and be okay with it. The way I see it, whenever I see someone using their brand, their platform to push a message that I disagree with, and I know it will only bring harm to our country, then I don't want to support that message. And so, how do I do that? By not purchasing whatever product is being endorsed and the message. It's like, have you noticed recently that companies they started first trying to get you to buy their products by saying, hey, buy this and we will donate to this. And so every single store pretty much these days, when you're about to pay, they're always asking you, do you want to donate to here and here? And so it's like now you are not just buying a product. And I think it's largely because the generation that I grew up in, and we're the adults now, we're in our 30s, mid 30s. We grew up being told you need to go out and change the world. Anything is possible. And so that is the marketing technique, right? You need to make this world a better place. So buy our product and change the world. And I am a sucker for certain products that are good, and I agree with what they're going to do, donate. But at the same time, I am aware that that is a marketing strategy, and so don't just buy because you're going to fall for the marketing strategy. And in particular, now what is being pushed is, okay, buy our makeup, buy our beer, buy, what are the other things? Nike, women's sports bras. Yeah, that too was partnered with Dylan Mulvaney. Buy our products, ladies, buy our products because we are very inclusive and you are making the world a better place if you buy our products. And so people that are like, whoa, no, you are not making the world a better place. It's actually going to have an opposite reaction, marketing wise. We're actually going to say, oh, that's what you're about. Okay, we're not going to be buying from you guys, and we'll just keep an eye on you and see if you stop doing that, because I don't want to support that. And literally I do that now. Like certain brands, purses that Dylan Mulvaney was also given a deal to promote these bags. Now that I see that person's brand, that company, I'm like, nope, not gonna buy that, and that's just it. Like, oh, I need to go buy some athletic clothes. I see Nike, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be supporting you right now, because at the end of the day, we live in a consumerism world, especially in the United States, and that is sadly our only voice, it feels, especially for someone living in California, where it seems that politics are all decided for you. Even if you're like an independent or a Republican, you just know that everything's kind of set. Everyone knows how the majority is going to vote here. And so the only voice I feel sometimes that we have is our money. And so I think that's all that I'm going to say about that. And if you watch Candace Owens' podcast, you know why I said that. That's how she ends her topics. So now I want to talk about Candace's reaction, and I hope I can do it in just a few minutes.
Spoken like only a woman could. So many feelings, so many buzzwords. We needed to elevate, make it lighter, make it brighter. And how could we be more equitable and inclusive and diverse? And la, 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 la.
Okay, I went to Wikipedia and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe she's just a little young. Maybe, because I, as a woman, when I was younger, I didn't really, get certain things. The older I get, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's more, nuance. The world is not as simple as that. And then I'm like, okay, she's just 2 years younger than me, so it can't be an age thing. So I had seen a video that she recommended, because lately I have been watching her show a lot, and so this is like the thing that I'm like, oh no, Candace, like you got to get this right, because it's not making you look too good. At least in my eyes. I know a lot of women actually agree with her based off of the comments that I see. I saw a video about a man that had actually transitioned and lived as a woman, and then now he actually helps people that are in those situations, and I loved that video of hers. So informative, and maybe one day hopefully I could interview that man. Something that came out in that video that kind of made me think, is that she mentions in that video that when she was a little girl, she used to think that being a little boy was better than being a little girl. And to her point, she's like, I'm so grateful that no one said, if you want to be a little boy, you can be a little boy. You are a little boy. Because when she says when she hit puberty and she started liking guys, I think that's what she said, then she's like, she loves being a lady now, you know? She's okay with not wanting to be like the boys. And she mentioned something like, because she used to go to the playground, I think she said, and she used to like talking deeper. And so all of that to say, I'll try to link that video. Actually, you know what, go to my community tab and you'll see I shared that video recently, but I'll just add it to my description below, because I do recommend that video. What that man has to say, incredible. But that made me think, wait a minute, okay, so there's this thing, and we all have these little quirks. And so before I talk about her quirk, it's completely, just an opinion over here, right? I'll share a quirk of mine, just to be fair, right? When I was in the playground, I used to be the girl that liked being a girl, but I felt like I had to defend the girls from the boys. And so there the girls were running away from the boys. Maybe they loved it. I don't know. I couldn't tell if they actually liked it or not. Actually, there was some very inappropriate behaviors going on with the boys. They would touch the girls inappropriately. And this was going on in what grade were we in? I want to say first, second grade. And so I would go and I would chase the little boys, and I would say these weird words that I remember hearing someone in Home Alone say. I don't know, I just tried to seem tough. And yeah, I've always felt like I want to stand up for women, for girls, when it is a worthwhile pursuit, when it is legitimate and there's some truth. And so that's my quirk, and I think that Candace is, and I shared that because even to this day, that's part of who I am, when I learned about apologetics and how there weren't a lot of women, I went on this search for women and what's the problem and how can I get more women to study and discuss Christian apologetics. When I learned about egalitarianism, biblical egalitarianism, I wanted to spread the word about how women don't just have to take someone else's word for it, complementarianism being the only way, the biblical way, but I wanted to make sure that women know that there are other views within Christianity. The quirk that I think Candace had and still has to this day is this idea that boys are better, and I want to be like the boys. Girls are not fun. Their voices are not, tough.
As I've mentioned on previous episodes, there was a 2-year stint, I think 4th and 5th grade, where I wanted to be like the boys because they looked like they were having more fun. Mm-hmm. So I used to try to talk in a deeper voice, and when I used to go on and play recess, I would run around with the guys. I thought girls were so lame, and I'd wear baggier clothes. And then you know what happened? I hit puberty, and suddenly I thought the guys were cute. Fortunately, at that time when I was running around saying I want to be a boy, my mom didn't say shave your head and called me Michael. She didn't do any of that. It was, you're still Candace, you're a girl, you're going to grow up out of this tomboy phase, as I like to think of it as.
So here she is. I think she wants to portray herself and think of herself as like the men. No, I'm better than all the other women that are so emotional. So I'm just going to say these like sexist things, which I hear the men saying, right? And I'm a woman, so that makes it even cool. And it makes it okay for me to say because I'm a woman, right?
So let's be honest with ourselves about every societal ill that we are facing today, every major societal ill, and we ask ourselves, how did we get here? The reason is because women feel bad. We're in places and in spaces in which men do not, in which men feel rational. It's not to say that all men think rationally and that all men are not as emotionally expansive. But right now we have the majority of people that are voting, turns out, are women. And the majority of those votes are being influenced by emotion, in my view. I don't think that the average person thinks like me. I think there's a reason that there are a lot of women out there that hate me. Spoken like only a woman could.
Spoken like only a woman could. And oh my goodness, that is just totally inappropriate. And I don't know if you realize you're talking about yourself, Candace. You know, you're differentiating yourself. But when you're spreading this message that only women can speak this emotionally, first of all, it's not true. There are so many men that speak exactly like this woman, because it doesn't in fact have to do with being a woman or a man. It has to do with what's happening in the mind, which I would argue has nothing to do with what you are, male or female. Definitely don't think that's the message we should promote on YouTube. It almost feels regressive in the bad sense. I mean, you don't have to agree with feminism necessarily, but you should at least admit that there were some things within the camp that you might have liked. You know, before, when only men voted, if that's your thing as a woman, you like that, you wish the world could still be that way. She made another video about that topic, talking about how women are voting by emotions. You have to admit that there were certain views that were not true about women back in those days. I think they were saying the same things, that women are too emotional, they can't be trusted to think rationally. And so when you push that message, Candace, you're actually saying that it's not possible for a woman to be like you, which you are claiming that you're not all about emotions, but that you're a rational person, that everything you say has no emotions at all, which is something that I think is wrong as well. It's not very uncommon for us to still say things like this casually. You know, a lot of people, I mean, I grew up in high school hearing people say, you know, if a woman was ever the president of the United States, we would go to war every single time she got her period. And there's that false, wrong, sexist claim that because of the way a woman was created and designed by God, which he says is good, he didn't say dangerous, you know, reckless, incapable of leading. He created women with certain things that happen a month, right, every month. And that's just a certain age group of women, you know. The older women, they deal with their own things physically. What I want to say is not, you need to think that women need to be presidents. What I'm saying is that it exists to this day, that belief that the way that a woman is biologically, that makes her incapable of being rational 24/7. It's the same underlying mentality that we're hearing here.
Sprinkles, cupcakes, confetti feelings, and nothing that actually productive to Bud Light's mission and what they've always stood for, which is men.
I don't think that it was only a male boycott, because at the end of the day, women are super influential, more than they are given credit. So, maybe a man didn't even know what was going on, and the wife was like, hey, this is what's going on. Don't buy that beer. I don't want that beer in this house. I mean, that would have been the situation here if my husband bought that kind of beer. We never have. We always go for other kinds, but that would have been the case. He probably wouldn't have heard what was going on. He listens to other kinds of topics. We all have different interests. And so, yeah, I saw someone left a comment in another video talking about how we shouldn't underestimate how women are largely the consumers. They're the ones that go and buy the things that need to be bought at home. Although I will say, I usually see men carrying the huge packs of beer like on a weekend and things like that. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying women are more, I'm just saying women are a part of the boycott one way or another, whatever that percentage is.
Women don't want to be mocked, so I hope that helps you in your next employment opportunity. Women don't want men dressing up like little girls, purporting that all women is lipstick and makeup. It's actually quite insulting. You should be insulted by that.
Yeah, and I agree with that, absolutely. The idea that I would be a woman because I have a certain hairstyle, I put makeup on, and that's what makes me a woman is completely contrary to the worldview that I hold, which I believe is the best explanation for reality. So if someone else that is not a woman puts on my outfit that I'm wearing right now, has the same hairstyle, same makeup, that person will not be biologically a woman, even with all the high heels and all of that, which I don't like wearing. By the way, they are tripping things that guys seem to love, and they accentuate certain things, and yeah, no thanks, over here. That those things are not what makes a woman. And I had an engagement, a short engagement on Twitter discussing this topic, and maybe I'll save it for another video. It's worthwhile. But so here's the last thing that I wanted to say about this. So if you are saying feelings are feminine or women, and even like, for example, Dylan Mulvaney, the way that he tries to come across is like, ooh, like, I'm scared of this, I don't like sports, and so it's like all the stereotypes, right? And I'm feeling like, Candace, you're falling into that stereotype too. So like, forget this. Sure, granted, absolutely, yes, it is true that probably the majority of marriages, for example, let's just talk about marriages, the husband probably will cry way less than the wife, right? And we can talk about that. I mean, feelings are not masculine or feminine, although that's what maybe culture wants to say, that if you act like a certain way, you are a woman. If you act like you have emotions and you're about to cry, that makes you like a woman. No, absolutely not. When I see a man crying, those are things that we have been taught throughout time, like boys don't cry. And that's just not what we are taught in the Bible. Jesus Christ, our example, right? Like, he cried, and he was a he. He chose that to be his biological sex coming here on earth. And there he is a couple times at least crying. When I see a man crying at church or like tearing up at a wedding, his daughter's wedding, whatever the case is, it's like, yep, I see a man and I'm like crying. I'm like, totally get that. I'm like, whoa, you had all of that bottled up. Someone loses their mother, their relative, tragedy. Men cry. It's not a feminine thing for women to cry. Like, a man can understand if a woman cries sometimes, right? Sometimes the men are like, why are you crying? But I think for the most part, you see a woman crying because she just lost someone in her family, a man can relate to that pain and totally understand, because they would respond the same way. I don't know, maybe he would feel more private about it. I don't know. There are those variables because of what we are told in culture. For feelings to be attributed to just women, it's just not intelligent. We live in a day and a time when we have studied the mind, the brain more, and we understand how God created us, like the hormones that He very intentionally gifted us with as women or as men, different, the levels. And that's why people want to manipulate it, because they do want to identify with those things biologically, even though they can't. It's like they can only manipulate their body so far surgically. That was what I was talking about, the tweet. The reality is that however you're born, that's how you are going to experience your life here on earth. So yes, women, we go through this cycle because God chose for the women to be able to give birth. And as a result of sin, unfortunately, not every woman is able to, because something went wrong. Or maybe that's not what God, wanted some women to do. Maybe God left that choice for some women to say, well, obviously not Adam and Eve. They had to. They had to be fruitful. But for other women, we learn in the New Testament that she can decide not to remarry or to marry at all, and she can devote her life to serving God. So we have so much to label as feminine and masculine, and sometimes these are not things that God has said. But of course, the way culture talks about these things, sometimes they want to steal our talking points, our views, and they twist it to make their case sound stronger. And that's where I think Candace, I would encourage her to go deeper into these conversations so that we can clearly see the difference between why is what this lady was promoting contrary to what the Christian worldview. What's the conflict between these two worldviews? I would love to hear her discuss more about her Christian views. Okay, I just wanted to say that feelings are, you'll see this in any kid book these days. There's a whole lot of feelings. There's charts that you can find, books that talk about all the feelings. It's not just sadness, it's not just empathy. I would argue that what she's actually thinking in her mind is people pleasing. I think that's what she's getting at, and she's confusing it with feelings. I think what she should have said instead is that, spoken like a woman that is a dire or a severe people pleaser, or a woman that wants to avoid any confrontation, or like she said at the end, probably just like a victim of what she was taught in her university, in her marketing program. I wouldn't label anyone like that necessarily personally, because I believe that you're not just this robot that can be indoctrinated, but that when you're in the world, I believe God gives us enough light here and there to really come out of those indoctrinating views and see past that. Men are emotional, women are emotional. How we manifest those feelings will look differently generally because of how God created us. So every woman that has her menstrual cycle understands that a certain amount of days prior to your cycle, the things that you are straight-faced about, you can internalize, not think about. Come those days, it's a floodgate. Either you're super angry about it, or you're super sad about it. And it really is a biological thing. Like, it just depends on what's the condition of your body. How are you taking care of yourself? Did you get enough sleep? Like, all of these things contribute to it, you know? How are you imbalanced hormonally? Like, do you need to be on certain medications to help you with these things so that you don't go from one extreme to the other, like, so you can be more like here in the middle? But can't we say the same thing about men in their own way, that when they have strong feelings, instead of crying, what will happen with them because of their own hormones, testosterone, they become really angry, right? And they get, prompted to want to fight. They get louder. They get really intimidating. Maybe they feel attacked. Whatever the case is, they start cussing. Let me tell you something. The people that have been the most emotional and that have scared me the most have always been men. Okay? Like, when I hear, even if it's between a man and a woman, the woman might have this screechy, annoying voice. And I'm speaking from a past experience recently when I went to the beach. And she may be cussing and everything, but it's the man that's like really upset with that woman, that's louder, that's stronger, obviously. And if he loses his control, like, he's the one that could cause like major damage, right, in that situation. So that's emotional too. And the Bible teaches us that we need to have self-control. The way Jesus manifested his feelings in tears, in anger, never once did he lose self-control. Never once did he say slanderous things about people. He always spoke the truth. And he didn't just do it one way. He was gentle in one situation. He was, I want to say, crafty. Like, he was very thoughtful in the way he worded things in another situation, and so forth. And no one should ever like just say that Jesus was never emotional. I mean, emotions are part of our experience of being a person, regardless if you're a man or a woman. God is clear in the Bible about his own emotions. And so obviously you can't say that our God is like a gendered God. Only the incarnate Son of God had this body, this male body. But you know what I'm trying to say. I think that goes to show that emotions surpass this whole biological body thing that we live in. We shouldn't be distracted by the feelings, because even when I hear the men, or even Candace, when she's talking, yeah, what you're saying may sound like you're giving reasons, but I can hear all the emotion besides. I understand why you're saying it. I can sense that you have like these concerns about your family. You have these concerns about your country. Those are feelings, You're concerned, you're worried, feelings. And we shouldn't just say, oh, you're voting because of your feelings. Like, no, our feelings are part of the conversation. They're part of our experience. They can be manipulated by politicians. People may, yeah, sure, it's possible to make decisions based on, I feel this way, so I'm just going to go against what my brain is telling me, what the Bible is telling me, and I'm just going to make a decision based off of how I feel and how I will feel. I think for the most part, that's not it. For the most part, we get distracted by these feelings, and we need, sometimes like when someone comes at you with all these feelings, sometimes you just take a step back and you just ask with kindness a question to the person, and then they feel like, ooh, I can tell you my thoughts, and you say something in response that helps them to feel, oh wow, you don't feel all that hostility like I thought you were, because I thought all Christians or all conservatives were like this. So it's wisdom to be able to be aware of the feelings, and not just there, but to target where is this coming from? What is your worldview? What do you believe? And how can I help you? How can I word something? How can I ask you a question to help you to see how there's an error there? So that's what I feel would be a better alternative than just saying, oh, you're a woman and you're just talking about feelings, and come on, Candace, we can do better, right? All right. So this is the end of my video, and that's all I have to say about that. I should say, I'm still going to be looking out for Candace's videos. This has nothing to do with like me coming against her in any way. Like I said, I believe women are intellectuals and we can have a conversation about feelings and about worldviews, and it's good.